To never go on TV. Never go on TV with your shirt tucked out or anything. You get the letters from the mom and dad saying, hey, that's not the right look. There you go.
Yeah.
As I tell my kids all the time, turn your hat around, pull your pants up, and go get a job.
Sound check is good? May we proceed, sir?
You're on camera here too, right, Mike?
I am. And you can notice the big hook, and that's why I'm going to stay a little bit back from you, because sometimes they get the nose in here.
Nobody's got a bigger nose than I do.
Well, every time I look,
hair, a big nose, a speech impediment, you're 6'11". Not a lot of those guys on television.
every time I look up, though, it looks like a two-car garage. I think I might have you. Spike Measer here with Bill Walton. Bill, I look back on your career, the All-Star, the Hall of Fame, all these accolades, yet you have remained so humble. Who is that the influence of?
I was very lucky, Spike. I had tremendous parents who are both still alive in relatively good health, and they're in their late 70s now. They still live in the same house we all grew up in. I've offered, since I became financially successful when I first left UCLA, to give them whatever they want. And they said, Bill, we are the happiest people alive. You keep your money, you spend it on yourself and on what you like to do. My parents both worked throughout their entire lives, and they gave me the concepts of pride and honor and integrity. And then I went on, Spike, to play for 6 Hall of Fame coaches. People like John Wooden and Jack Ramsey and Lenny Wilkins, Red Auerbach, Casey Jones, people who gave me the values and characteristics that I would need to be successful, not in basketball, but in life. Because they never really talked much about basketball. It was not X's and O's, it was not strategy. It was about being successful as a person and learning things like loyalty and teamwork and friendship and sacrifice and commitment and organization and discipline, poise, confidence, competitive greatness, all those things. And then it comes together in terms of being able to go out there and perform. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I'm also the happiest guy in the world, Spike.
Of all the great Hall of Fame coaches that you mentioned, that common denominator is the compassion, the true caring about the human individual?
The biggest lesson that I learned at an early age, because I grew up in Southern California, in San Diego, in the glory days of the John Wooden dynasty at UCLA. And he always talked about the team, and every coach I ever had from the very beginning talked about the team and the importance of it's not how good you are as an individual, but it's the ability to make the other guy the star player. A top player can always get his numbers. He can always score, he can always rebound, always have his impact. But when you make the other guy the star, that's the real test and delineator of a superstar out there. Now, when you extrapolate the team into the community, that becomes the family, that becomes the neighborhood, that becomes your community, your city, your state, and I have a great life. My life is not going to change. I'm never going to be the richest guy in the world, but I'm very lucky in that I have a terrific family with 4 strong, healthy kids. I live in a wonderful community where everybody else cares about each other. When you have that going for you, anything is possible. The same way as when you're on a great basketball team and you have 5 guys pulling with one common goal, you always beat the one individual who's trying to do it by himself.
Is that what set apart the 77 Blazers, that team, everybody pulling on the rope in the same direction?
We believed in ourselves so much, Spike. It was such a special squad of guys. Jack Ramsey was brilliant at putting a team together, at finding key guys who he could build around and then getting those complementary players. We had phenomenal skill. We had power and the greatness of Maurice Lucas. We had incredible speed. The backcourt of Lionel Hollins and Johnny Davis. But most importantly, it was the willingness to pull together. The willingness to say, hey, this guy is really good. And if we let him play his game, let him contribute, then we're all going to be better off. When you're sitting in that locker room, there's nothing like it, Spike. And there's just 12 of you. And the building is just breathing down, and it's so exciting and so tense, and the bands are playing, and the cheerleaders are jumping around, and everybody's going wild, and you're looking in there right into the eyes, into the souls of your teammates, and you say to yourself, these are my friends for life. When you have that feeling, and everybody has one common goal, and that's to win the game and do whatever it takes. The rest of life is a piece of cake.
I know you're still pretty good friends with Maurice Lucas. I know you've been involved in some golf tournaments with him. I've seen you at some of the fights here in Vegas. Obviously, he had that intimidating, the enforcer, you know, whatever you want to call him. But yet off the court, this is a mild-mannered man. Could he just flip a switch and turn it on and off?
Maurice Lucas was one of the most intense warriors and combatants that I've ever seen. In fact, I often refer to Maurice Lucas as the greatest teammate that I ever had. Now, everybody said, well, what about Larry Bird, Bill? Well, Larry Bird was the best player that I ever played with. But when I describe a teammate, I describe someone who makes other people play better. That was the nicest thing anybody ever said about me as a player, Spike, was that I helped my teammates play better. Nobody made me a better basketball player than Maurice Lucas, who off the court was the gentlest, calmest, kindest, friendliest person. But when everything was on the line and there were grown men out there battling for the ultimate prize, with money, with prestige, with honor, everything right out there, Maurice Lucas, that's the one you want on your team. That guy is one fierce, tough guy. We love him. We never would have won that championship. He was the most valuable trailblazer.
As an NBA player, obviously you are among the elite of the elite. Not many guys get to participate in the National Basketball Association. But are there members of your peer group that even you hold in awe?
Awe is not the correct word, Spike.
Okay.
Respect. You have such incredible respect for the sacrifices that the top guys make. I mean, to get really good at anything, whether it's sports or music or business or mathematics, use of the computer, or anything, you give up your whole life. The sacrifices, the commitments, the time, obligations, there's just no way that can be measured. And the sleepless nights, the nights on the road, the playing through the pain. Michael Jordan to the top of that list. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was the best that I ever played against, was phenomenal. Magic and Larry, of course. Bill Russell, who was my childhood hero. Muhammad Ali, another childhood hero of mine. Wilt Chamberlain. You know, the real special ones, the one who have changed the course of history in basketball. And the interesting thing about it, Spike, is that as great of players as they were and are, they're all better people. And when you get to know a Michael Jordan, when you get to talk to him about things, he is a better and truer person than he is a basketball player. And he's pretty much perfect on the basketball court.
Yeah, hard to top what MJ has done. I want to switch venues a little bit here for the discussion, or at least topics. What kind of books do you read, and did you read growing up, that have made you articulate, intelligent, well-rounded, and basically a guy to be idolized by the youth of America?
I read everything, Spike. My mom was a librarian. We didn't have a TV growing up. My parents didn't believe in television.
Probably to your advantage.
My parents have a TV now, but they still don't have cable. And my parents still ask me when I'm going to get a job. But I'm one of those guys who has this insatiable thirst for knowledge, for communication. I was also cursed by a horrible stuttering problem. When I was growing up, couldn't speak at all. Here I was, grew to be very tall, geeky, with red hair and a big nose and a horrible speech impediment. So I gravitated towards solitary things. Basketball is really the only team game, team activity that I ever participated in. But in basketball, I didn't have to speak, other than yelling at the refs and telling the coach to put some more rebounders in there. And I practiced those phrases. So, but the things I like to do are solitary things. In basketball, you can play it by yourself, but music, I've recently taken up playing the piano. I play the drums. I love working in a garden. Bike riding, I can still do a little bit of that. But the type of things I would read, a lot of history, a lot of biography, some fiction, not too much though, but the great writers. When you get touched by a great writer, it's the same as being touched by a great coach. I mean, it's just a different medium. I had great teachers. John Wooden, he was a phenomenal giver. He gave up his life to make other people's lives better. And I never stopped reading. I've always got 3 and 4 books going all the time. The internet is just a fabulous thing for me because there's endless information on that. And it's just right at the tip of your fingers, and it's always there. You're not constrained by time. I like to play a lot of chess, and that's really mentally challenging. I would say of all the books I'm reading right now, that is the most interesting. It's a book, a very short book, it's 100 pages or so, about a young man who was dissatisfied with his life. And the book is called Into the Wild, and he left everything he had in search of something better, and just traveled around, hitchhiked, walked, with basically penniless. And it's a very fascinating and interesting story.
I will wrap it up. I would love to talk to you because I'm enjoying this greatly, and unless I'm mistaken, you are as well, because I believe you like to display your intelligence, and you certainly are very intelligent. The camp's about ready to roll. You've told me you're the luckiest guy in the world. Does Bill Walton change anything if he looks back?
The biggest regret I have, Spike, is that I did not learn how to speak earlier. I didn't realize that communication was a skill like anything else. I thought that you were born with the ability to speak. And with this horrible stuttering problem that I had, it wasn't until I was 28 years old that I learned how to talk. But at that point, at a social event, one of the broadcasters who I'd gotten to know, he took me aside, gave me some tips. I took those tips and applied them to the learning methods that I had gotten from Coach Wooden and Coach Ramsey about how to develop skill, and I work at it every single day. My life probably would have been a lot different had I known how to speak. But so that would be one area that I would change. And then if I could do anything to get rid of the injuries and eliminate all those missed games, because no one missed more games in the history of basketball than I did. I played in the NBA 14 seasons, but I missed a total of 9.5 full years. And that's a lot of frustration, that's a lot of embarrassment, anxiety, disappointment, and sadness for me, because basketball is what I truly love. And all I ever wanted was more. I didn't get enough.
How does one handle the mental disappointment? I mean, physically, yeah, there wasn't much you could do about it. How do you deal with that from the neck up?
You have to develop other interests. When your body doesn't work, I was one of the first ones to have the stress fractures, the undiagnosed broken bones in the feet, and it's just debilitating, not just physically but mentally as well, because you do everything you can and it still doesn't work. So you have to come up with other interests, and you have to take your mind off it. So everything I do now revolves around sitting down. The chess, the gardening, the bicycle riding, the piano, the broadcasting, the drums. They've all got a chair in it.
And even the interviews, like here at the camp, right?
Absolutely. Got to sit down, got to save those legs.
All right, Bill Walton, can't thank you enough for being with us. It was a pleasure to speak with you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I've been waiting for this for a long time.
All right.
And I thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Okay.
It's an honor to speak with you. It really is.
It's fun.